This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, when you last appeared before this committee on June 1st, you made the incredible assertion that with regards to the May 2021 CSIS Issues Management Note that warned that MP Michael Chong and his family in Hong Kong were being targeted by the Beijing regime, including an accredited diplomat at Beijing's Toronto consulate, that, quote, CSIS quite appropriately made a determination they didn't believe it was necessary to pass that information along, end of quote, which you characterized as, quote, an operational decision, end of quote. Your testimony, Minister, is directly contradicted by the director of CSIS, David Vinot, who on June 13th told this committee that no such operational decision had been made, that the Issues Management Note, distinct from other intelligence memos, pertains to a matter of high importance, and that in regards to you, Minister, quote, I think the fact that we did an issue management note speaks to the notion that we wanted to highlight the information, end of quote. So, Minister, through you, Madam Chair, can you explain why your testimony was flatly contradicted by the director of CSIS?
Well, with great respect, it was not contradicted, and in fact, I sincerely believe that it was the director's intent that that information be made available to me. Unfortunately, the steps were not taken by CSIS or by the Department of Public Safety to make that information available to me. I had no way of knowing that they had a secret that they wanted to tell me. And under every other circumstances, and I was the Minister of Public Safety for over 2 years, under every other circumstances, the director of CSIS would advise my office that they had information to brief me on. He would, thank you, Madam Chair. He would advise my office that they had information that they wished to share with me. I would then go to a secure room where that information was shared. On some other circumstances, I was actually asked to attend the CSIS office in Toronto, where that information would be briefed to me. But that did not take place in this circumstance.
I understand what you're now saying, but you said it was the intent of the director of CSIS that information be shared with you. That's not what you said on June 1st. Minister, you used very specific language that the director, that being the director of CSIS, determined that this was not information the minister needed to know. Those were your expressed words, and that it was an operational decision not to pass that information on to you. That's very different than saying that there was an intent to pass it along to you. What you're saying now is the opposite of what you said on June 1st. So why did you use that very specific language when you evidently knew that it simply wasn't true based upon what you're saying today?
And respectfully, Mr. Cooper, I listened to the testimony that Director Vigneault gave before this committee after my testimony. I heard him very clearly say that it was his intent. And I know Director Vigneault very well. He's a very decent man, and I've worked with him for many years, and I trust him. However, I would point out that he, unfortunately, notwithstanding his maybe perhaps good intentions to share that, he did not take the steps that were necessary to ensure that that information was actually brought to my attention. And under every other circumstances, the director would notify my office, and he would come and either brief me personally or ask that I attend at the CSIS office in Toronto to have that information shared. That did not take place at that time. I assumed, and by the way, there's a great deal of information that CSIS comes in possession of, and they make determinations as to its validity and usefulness.
You said,
and I assumed that when they told that they did not share it with me,
thank you, Minister. I've given you some time to answer. You're repeating yourself. Minister, you said that it was your expectation that matters of national security, such as that impacting MP Chong and his family, would be brought to your attention. Well, it was also the director of CSIS's expectation that when a top secret issues management note on a matter of high importance was sent to you, your deputy minister, and your chief of staff, that you would have seen that. So will you, Minister, at the very least concede that under your watch there was a colossal breakdown in communications that resulted in MP Chong being kept in the dark for 2 years and a Beijing thug allowed to stay in Canada for 2 years to continue his campaign of intimidation against Chinese Canadian citizens. Would you at the very least concede that there was a breakdown of communications under your watch as minister?
Well, Mr. Cooper, there are two things that are incorrect with what you have just said. First of all, that information was not sent to me, and it was not sent to my chief of staff. So you've incorrectly characterized that. No. It was sent to a secure terminal to which we do not have access. That is not the way in which top secret information was shared with the minister or the minister's office. It was shared more directly by the director, and that did not happen in these circumstances. So your characterization as that this information was sent to me is quite frankly incorrect. However, I would also acknowledge, as the National Security Intelligence Advisor acknowledged, and as I believe the Director of CSIS acknowledged in this circumstance, that they did not do what was necessary to make sure that information was brought to the attention of the minister. And for that, I, as the Minister of Public Safety at the time, I do take responsibility for that, and we've taken steps to remedy that mishandling of that particular information and the failure to ensure that it got into the hands of people who needed to see it.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, did your Chief of Staff, Zita Stravis, read the issues management note, which was also sent to her?
No. My understanding is no.
Okay.
I wouldn't testify for her, but I asked and she said no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Minister, through you, Madam Chair, you have had a history over the last two meetings that you have appeared before this committee in providing inaccurate testimony. On June 1st, you said that the issues management note was withheld by you as part of an operational decision by CSIS, which you now concede is not the case, that there was an intent that you see that issues management note. You said in answer to a question that I posed to you that the issues management note had not been sent to you, even though I have a redacted copy of the issues management note that clearly indicates that it was sent to you. The fact that you didn't read it, the fact that it went into a big black hole is an entirely different matter, Minister. And Madam Chair, Minister, you seem to make a big deal about accessing a secure terminal. You cited that this would have been transmitted to a secure terminal in the Deputy Minister of Public Safety's office. Can you confirm that your office and the Deputy Minister's office at which this secure terminal is located are at the 19th floor of 269 Laurier?
I don't know where the secure terminal is, but Mr. Cooper, if I wrote you a letter and wrote your name on the letter and then put it back in my briefcase and never told you the letter existed and never showed it to you and didn't give you access to my briefcase, I think we could assume that you didn't know that I'd written you the letter.
Minister, you mean to tell me you don't know where the secure terminal is on the same floor as your office in the Deputy Minister's office? How is that an answer that lends itself confidence on the part of Canadians that you had a grip on fulfilling your responsibilities and receiving information, in this case, on a matter of high importance involving a member of Parliament who was being targeted by Beijing? Really, Minister?
Yeah, really, Mr. Cooper. Really, Mr. Cooper, that office was not, that terminal is on the other side of the building. I do not have access to it. I do not have any access to it, and I don't know precisely where it's located because, frankly, if I knew where it was located, I might have been given access to it.
Well, Minister, I'm glad you've now discovered where it is. But Minister, had you not thought to go down the hall? You talk about this expectation, an expectation that led to this issues management note going into a big black hole. Had you directed your officials to bring to your attention issues management notes on matters of high importance that were addressed to you? Did you ever instruct them to bring those memos to your attention? I mean, how is it possible? I mean, how can you be told? Do you have to be told to read documents that are sent to your attention? Do you have to be told by officials before you bother to do so?
Mr. Cooper, just to be really clear, I have to be advised that there's a memo that needs to be read, and it was not in this case. The director did not advise me in every other circumstances, and I had that job for 2 years. In every other circumstances, the director would notify my office that he had top secret information that he needed to convey to me. He would convene a meeting that I would attend in a secure facility, and that information would be shared. That did not happen in this case. And there were a few other occasions, twice, by the way, in that month, where I was actually asked to go down to the Toronto office. That, again, that information was not shared. And so I have no way of asking or demanding to see a note I don't know exists.
Minister, does your staff have to tell you to read your emails? Does your staff have to tell you to check your text messages? I mean, right here, it was sent to you. Now, Minister...
And Mr. Cooper, you're confused to what
I'm pausing. I don't know about the intentions of any member, but I will tell you that I am the child of immigrants, and when we're talking about the security of our country and we're giving addresses and we're giving information, I question some of what we're doing right here. And I'm here on a question of privilege, chairing the Procedure and House Affairs Committee, because one of my fellow colleagues, who I might not share a political stripe with, was concerned about their safety. The House of Commons, the Speaker, sent this to our committee to do this work. And I take this very seriously, and you could hear it in the tremor of my voice. I have experienced stuff in this country that I hope nobody else has to. And I will just say, as honorable members, and by default of being elected, we are honorable members, be mindful as to the work we are doing and why we are doing it. So I'm going to resume this committee, but I will say, remember why we're here, and let's not be short-sighted.
Minister, do you accept the principle of ministerial responsibility? And absolutely, and consistent with that, do you accept that the buck stops with you as minister? Not your officials, not the director of CSIS, with you.
I believe in responsibility, and I believe taking responsibility means fixing things that don't go well in your department. And in this case, that information was not shared, and it should have been. And so steps have been taken now to remedy that.
And you have spent this entire meeting throwing the director of CSIS under the bus, throwing your deputy minister under the bus. Everyone is responsible, but you, Minister. Minister, you failed, and you failed colossally.
Mr. Cooper, I simply disagree with your characterization. I am not throwing anyone under the bus. I'm explaining what happened, and in this case, what did not happen that should have happened.